Hello, brothers and sisters. Hey, thanks for joining me today. I wanted to do a follow-up on my story about the Muslim vandals who defaced a church here in Texas. I believe it was in Euless, and I did this story last week. Well, they just came to trial, and the first trial of the three has finished. So I wanted to give you guys an update. So this is in thecentersquare.com, Texas. I'll link the article in. Muslims who vandalized Texas church claim First Amendment right. Jury disagreed. Abbott directs enhanced protections for place of worship. I think this is especially timely given we had the Muslim terrorist who attacked the synagogue in the UK. Well, here we've got them vandalizing churches. Perhaps they weren't terrorists, but they were just vandals. If you watched my last video, you'll see that the Council of American Islamic Relations, I think that's what it's called, CARE, wanted these charges dropped because it was the free speech of these young Muslims to vandalize a Christian church. They had written like anti-Israel graffiti on a Christian church, which I thought was really odd. Why didn't they just do a synagogue? Maybe the synagogues have better security. I don't know. But I believe it was a Christian church. And I said, throw the book at them. I'm generally not okay with hate crimes. They did get hit with a hate crime. I think the laws on the book should just be sufficient without a hate crime because hate crimes are a slippery slope. In the UK, they're using those hate crime laws to throw people in jail for mean tweets, which is insane to me. I think the anti-vandalism of a church laws should be sufficient. So let's see how this turned out. And again, I said this was Texas, not Minnesota. Texas doesn't like it when you vandalize Christian churches. And we don't care who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, doesn't matter if you're Hindu, doesn't matter if you're Christian. You vandalize a Christian church, we don't like it. We'll generally come down hard on you for that. There's no, this was free speech. 3 Muslims who vandalized a church in Euless, Texas, argued doing so was their First Amendment right. And I live in Texas. Euless is only maybe 15 minutes away from me. So far, jurors have disagreed, convicting one man, Ranak Alam, of vandalism, but not of a hate crime. Alam was one of 3 charged in the vandalization of a non-denominational church. Okay, it's non-denominational. The Uncommon Church in Euless, in Tarrant County last March. They are accused of spray painting expletive Israel and affixing pro-Palestinian Hamas stickers on the exterior of the church building, among other actions recording on the church security camera. What does a non-denominational church have anything to do with Israel, Palestine, or Hamas? This doesn't make any sense to me. I could see if this was a synagogue, or perhaps the pastor in the church said mean things about Palestine. I don't know, but it just seems crazy to do this to a church that has nothing to do with Israel or Palestine. District Attorney Phil Sorrells initially charged them with felony criminal mischief. Good. The case was originally filed in county criminal court. The charges were later increased to a 3rd-degree felony hate crime, so an even stronger felony. I don't know if that was necessary. I'd have to see what the actual potential sentencing is on the original criminal mischief charge before I could really decide if it needed the upgrade. But in general, I'm against hate crimes. So in general, I don't like that part, which carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Ooh, 10 years is a long time. 10 years does seem a little too long for vandalism, but you know what? If it teaches them a lesson so other vandals don't vandalize stuff, I might be okay with that. I have to think about it. It was increased to a hate crime because the perpetrators allegedly targeted a church because of religion, the prosecution argued. Yeah, why else would you attack a church? You definitely did it because you don't like churches. The case was also transferred to county criminal court under Judge Brian Bolton. Okay, so Brian Bolton's got it as the judge. Alam was the first to go to trial in mid-September, was found guilty on the criminal mischief charge. Bolton issued a sentence of 5 years probation. Alam was ordered to pay $10,000 fine, $1,700 in restitution to the church. His probation terms include serving 180 days in jail and conducting 180 hours of community service, undergoing regular drug and alcohol testing, wearing a GPS monitor, and issuing an apology to the church. I'm actually okay with that. 6 months in jail, 180 hours of community service, and a fine, and GPS monitoring, and then also 5 years probation. I think that's a good enough sentence. I think that does actually fit the crime. So good. So yeah, I'm okay with him not getting the hate modifier. I think this is a reasonable sentence for what he did. Alam was next indicted on a charge of committing perjury, and he faces drug possession charge. When they arrested him, he must have had drugs on him. His attorney argues he's being targeted, told KER News at a news conference. No, he's not being targeted. He's being targeted because he vandalized the church. This seems completely appropriate to me, and I hope he gets whatever the sentence is for the drug charge, if that's proven. Completely okay with that. Co-defendant Afshin Khan was also charged with felony criminal mischief. Her trial was September 30th. A third defendant, Julia Venzor, agreed to testify against Alam and Khan as part of a plea deal. She pleaded guilty in exchange for the deal, also receiving 5 years probation, WFAA News reported. So it seems like she's going to get just the 5 years probation, no fine or jail time for giving evidence against the other two. I'm fine with that. The prosecution does deals all the time and advises the judge to give lighter sentences all the time because of their cooperation. Now, ultimately, it's up to the judge. He can give whatever he likes, pretty much in these cases. The vandalism occurred after the church put up an Israeli flag to express solidarity with Israel after October 7th Hamas attack. Uncommon Church pastor Brad Carrigan testified in court. Okay, they made themselves a target because they put up an Israeli flag. I got no problem with people wanting to put up an Israeli flag. I honestly have no problem with people wanting to put up a Palestinian flag. Now, we live in Texas, so I think the Texas flag and the American flag should take precedence. You do have the free speech right to put up an Israeli flag or a Palestinian flag. As long as you're doing that peacefully and lawfully, I don't have a problem with it. You do you. The case highlights a pattern in Texas where Christians, churches, Jews, synagogues, and pro-Israel Americans have been targeted with unprovoked violence by Muslims. Yeah, there was a story just last week that I did. Now, it's unproven if it was because they were Muslims, but 3 Muslim men were out target shooting in a field and shot a Little League baseball coach while he was doing a pregame prayer. Luckily, none of the other children coaches got hit. The police at this point had only charged the men with reckless shooting and not actually targeting the kids. But a lot of people feel this was really targeted and they were trying to shoot the kids. So there is a little bit of tension there between Muslims and Christians in the U.S. right now. In January, a Pakistani Islamist held hostage Jewish parishioners at a Colleyville synagogue. Yeah, and Colleyville is actually between where I live and Euless. Also, Colleyville's like the next city over. And that was bad because the rabbi saw what he thought was a homeless man outside, and it was cold. It was January, yeah. And he looked like he needed aid, and there was a service about to start. And the rabbi didn't ask the man's religion. He just saw a man in need. He invited him into his church, gave him warmth, gave him soup, and said, hey, if you'd like to attend our service, we're having a service. And then the man pulled out a gun and held everyone hostage, and turned out he was a terrorist who had targeted the synagogue. I can't remember how that all turned out. If I remember right, he was actually a British Muslim man who had came just to buy a gun because it was easier to get a gun in the U.S. and shoot up a synagogue. I believe so. I might have to go find that story and do it again because it's come back to mind again. There is some tension between Muslims and Christians and Jews in the U.S., and there shouldn't be. I think everyone should be free to practice your religion. As long as you're peaceful, I don't care what your religion is. Doesn't have anything to do with me. You go do you. In 23, 2 Hispanic Republicans in Texas congressional delegation were targeted by Hamas supporters. Republicans Ted Cruz and Monica DeLusa, the center reported. At least 3 public schools in Texas were identified by Biden administration Department of Education last year for civil rights violations due to religious discrimination targeting Jewish students. Even some of our schools are targeting people because of their religion. Same thing happens in the UK, I'm sure. Wasn't there a little girl who got sent home from school for wearing a Union flag dress at a kind of Be Proud of My Community event? So this indoctrination against people's religion or their races in schools needs to stop. As anti-Semitic incidents escalated, nationwide pro-Palestinian Hamas rioters called for the annihilation of Israel and protested Israel on college campuses, including in Texas. Yeah, the Biden administration went soft on that and allowed all those demonstrations. But they were not peaceful demonstrations. They put fear of violence into all the Jewish students at those schools. They didn't protect the Jewish students. These protests were generally around the finals weeks at very high profile, very expensive, upscale U.S. schools. And students couldn't study and learn, and they tore the place up. And the schools really didn't do much about it. They really enabled it because the administration and the professors were all for it. But since then, Trump has come down on all of them and forced them to actually protect the civil rights of their Jewish students, because they 100% were in the wrong. They did not protect the civil rights of their Jewish students or the other students who just wanted to go to class. Those students were not peaceful. They were rioters. They were tearing up schools and disrupting the ability of students to learn on campus. You can't do that. Once you're no longer peaceful, you should be arrested for whatever it was. And because the schools did not get those folks arrested and didn't discipline them, Trump had to come in and do it. Perfectly okay with that. Texas was a little bit different. Texas didn't allow any of that nonsense. Texas police forces did come in when the schools weren't complying and did protect the civil rights of their students. In response, Governor Abbott directed Texas Department of Public Safety troopers, and for people in the UK, Texas Department of Public Safety are the state police force in Texas, to arrest them. Pro-Palestinian Hamas rioters argued their actions were protected by the First Amendment. Abbott maintains that calling for the deaths of Jews is not protected speech. He also maintains that college rioters should be arrested and expelled, and faculty espousing anti-Semitism should be fired. That's right. On all these schools where the professors and the administration protected these rioters, these people that were calling for death of Jews on campus, and there were Jews on campus studying and disrupting their ability to learn, he sent in the Texas State Police and they arrested everybody. They didn't care what the university wanted. You're breaking the law in Texas, we're not going to allow it. Muslim groups sued Abbott last year, arguing his directive violated the First Amendment. The Center Square reported Abbott, a former Texas Supreme Court justice and former Texas Attorney General, maintains it did not. So I think those court cases are still ongoing. I don't know. We'll see. But I expect, this is Texas, I expect Abbott to win those cases. Jewish groups also sued Muslim groups, arguing they were knowingly providing continuous systemic and substantial assistance to Hamas, its affiliates, and acts of international terrorism. Yeah, so see, if you give material support to Hamas, that's actually a crime because the U.S. considers them a terrorist organization, and I believe the UK does too. So you're not allowed to give Hamas support. So I think the Jewish groups are going to win those cases too. In the wake of increased targeted violence against religious institutions and ahead of the second anniversary of October 7th terror attacks, Abbott this week directed enhanced security measures to be taken around places of worship. The Center Square reported he and the Texas legislature have also advanced numerous efforts to combat anti-Semitism, including in Texas public schools and universities. Good article. I 100% agree. I fully support your right to peacefully protest. Your peaceful protest rights end when you're infringing on other people's rights. You have no right to destroy someone else's property. You have no right to graffiti somebody's church. It's not your property. You have no right to destroy schools, destroy windows. You have free speech, but you have no right to incite violence against others. And I also don't believe you can impede traffic. There are rules that say you're not allowed to walk in the street and block traffic. The only time you should be able to do that when you've talked to the council and you've gotten a permit to do that, and the council coordinate with the police to shut down roads for everyone's safety. Because it's a safety issue, and those people need to get to work or get to wherever they are about their lawful business. You can't obstruct them. I think you should be able to run over protesters blocking you in the street, because streets are for cars. They're not for people. When I was growing up, my mom told me to look both ways and then look again before I crossed the street, because if I got run over, it was probably my fault. And in some countries, it is like that. I've been to Mexico. In Mexico, you're 100% at fault if you get run over, if you're walking in the street. And I'm for that with this nonsense of blocking traffic. As long as you're peacefully protesting, go do it. If you're not peacefully protesting, you should be arrested and charged with whatever crime you committed. And in this case, I think the jury found right. I think the sentencing is right. It fits the crime. If you want to be a pro-Palestinian, pro-Muslim protester, anti-Israeli protester, and be a knucklehead about it, go do that in Minnesota. Tim Walz, I think, is fine with that. Go to Dearborn, Michigan. Don't come to Texas. Texas doesn't play around with that stuff. Hey, let me know what I got wrong. Like and subscribe if you like this. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Thanks. Bye.